Hey guys, so in today's video I'm going to be going over what a class type is within Python and how you can transfer between the different class types using the different methods I have in front of you here. So we'll kind of just start off with printing what one is right here. One, if we were to print it, obviously we would get one printed onto the screen. Now what's happening under the hood is Python is saying, hey, we're going to go ahead and read this value here as an integer and we're printing one. Now, for example, let's say we had another print. So let's go ahead and do 2, and let's get rid of this, add that. And let's say, for example, you come across this, just like randomly in just some random piece of code. What would happen is we would get 1 and 1 printed out. Now, to us, we're able to read this as a numeric value, and it's not actually being read to us as, like, for example, an E or a P. But what's happening under the hood is within Python is that this one right here is being read as a string. To be able to confirm, like, if a value is a string or an integer, what you can do is you could do print, and then we'll go ahead and do type. And we'll go ahead and add this into brackets, and then we'll do the same thing up here, type, and then we'll go here. So if we were to run it, what we would get is this one is showing as an integer, and likewise this one is showing as a string. Now this might seem a little confusing, but just know if ever you see something in Python and you want to know what class it is, go ahead and use the type function. Now, for example, let's say you wanted to actually transfer the two of these. Let's say you want to change this into a string value and this one to an integer value. What you could do is you could type in int, and then likewise you could go ahead and type in string. So if ever you're a little confused still, all you need to know is you got to read the value from the inside out. So what we have here is we have a string value of 1, and we're saying, hey, Python, go ahead and transfer this string value into an integer. From there, we're saying, hey, we want to classify that as now being considered an integer. And what we're doing is say, hey, Python, go ahead and call the type so we can clarify what class type this is. And then we're going to go ahead and print out what the class is. And likewise, again, we're beginning with an integer. We're transferring it into a string value. And then we're going to say, hey, print the type that it is. So if we were to run this, what would happen is we're seeing them transfer. So if ever you needed to transfer something from a string value or vice versa, like say an integer value into a string, what you can do is you could call the int value. Just remember though, if for example we said hello, rather than actually having a numeric value, that we would still get an error. So just remember, if you are going to transfer something into an integer, make sure it is a numeric value like 10, 100, whatever. Something else to go ahead and keep in mind is that when you're working within Python, if, for example, we had one here, like let's say this is a string value of 1, well, if you want to transfer that into like a Boolean value or a float value, what you could do is you could type in bool or even float. And likewise, the same thing will happen is we're going to go ahead and go from the inside out. This is a string value, and we're saying, hey, transfer this into a Boolean value, and we're going to go ahead and call the type, the class type that it is, to clarify what it might show up as. And then again, we're doing the same thing here, an integer value, and when, let's say we want to transfer it into a float value, what we could do is say, hey, Python, go ahead and call the type, let's see what it is. So if we were to run that, what we're getting is a float and a bool. Now, for those that do not know what a float or a Boolean value is, a float value would be, let's go ahead and print out 1. And then likewise, let's actually get rid of this type right here to see a Boolean value. And let's take away the string call, get rid of that. Good. So if we were to run this, what would happen is this float value is being transferred from like 1 into 1.0. So just remember that float is 1.0 or just really 1 point whatever. Just remember that there's always a decimal place, so it's being transferred into a float value. And likewise, the only reason we're able to transfer this one value into a Boolean is because Booleans are read as ones and zeros. Just remember that a 1 is true and a 0 is false. So yeah, so hopefully you guys learned a little bit about how to transfer between the different class types under the hood within Python by calling like a string function, an integer function, a float, a Boolean, and likewise the type. So if you like this video, please feel free to check out some of my other videos. I share a lot of my knowledge about Python, and I'm going to go ahead and show like my own progress as I become a better developer. And hopefully you guys can join me along with that journey. So thanks for watching this, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks, guys.